Hey everyone. I know it's been a couple weeks since I last posted, but if you remember, my last post was a call for questions, so I could do a little Q&A with you guys. I didn't get very many questions, mostly from my family and a few friends, but I'd love to hear from more of you. If you guys have any more questions after the video, feel free to comment on my Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or my blog. So if you have any feedback or anything about the videos or my blog, questions about me or me being an English major, I'd love to hear from you guys. So here are some of the questions that I got asked. Who inspired you to study English? I've always had really great English teachers, wide variety of different teaching styles, and I've learned to love literature because of them, both in high school and in college. I've always enjoyed my English classes and felt like I was able to understand writing and literature better. And they've always been the classes that I want to go to the most. So my goal is to help young people develop the same love for reading that I have, hopefully for writing too. So that's kind of who inspired me to study English. Okay, so what are your favorite plot twists of all time from a book and a movie? Um, my favorite plot twist from a book would have to be from The School for Good and Evil by Soman Chainani. So, kind of what the summary of the book, I'll try not to give away too much. But children have been being kidnapped from this village for hundreds of years. And it's always kind of this pattern of one of the children is beautiful and good, and the other is a homely outcast kind of person. This year, they're best friends, Sophia and Agatha, that are kidnapped. And they kind of discover where everybody's been going to this school of good and evil. Um, these kids are trained to be fairy tale heroes or villains. Sophie seems like she'd be the perfect princess. She like loves pink, wears glass slippers, kind of thing. Loves to do good deeds. But her best friend Agatha is like the exact opposite. She wears black all the time. She has a pet cat. Dislikes everyone. So when they're taken to the school, however, their roles are kind of reversed. Sophie gets put into the school for good and evil, and Agatha's put in the school for good. It seems like it's a huge mistake, but we kind of start to see a reveal of who Sophie and Agatha really are. And at the end, there's this huge plot twist. It's kind of a cliffhanger for the whole book, and we don't actually find out what happens until the beginning of the second book. So that's what one of the biggest plot twists I'd have to say from a book that I really enjoy. I also got asked if I could direct a book to a movie. What book would it be and why? And for a while since I've read this book, I thought that it would make a really good movie. So it would probably be The School for Good and Evil. However, Universal Pictures has acquired the rights to make the film for it, so they kind of beat me to it. But hopefully we'll be seeing that movie soon. But to be honest, I understand how hard it can be for directors of films that are book to movie because there's just so much that's packed into a book: plot, elements, characterization, things that are hard to portray in film sometimes. So there's a lot of decisions about what to put in the movie and what to leave out, and still manage to catch the essence of the story. On my blog, I have an entire page about book versus movie adaptations, and my mother-in-law recommended that I try reading Forrest Gump by Winston Groom to see how it compares to the film. I haven't gotten around to it yet, but I will, so hopefully you guys can see that review coming up soon. Someone else asked, how do you pick books? How do you pick which books to read? And I made a post a week or two ago about my tips on how to find a good book to read. So I talked about things like social media or word of mouth reviews, or even just like wandering around a bookstore or library kind of thing. Those are the usual methods I go about picking books. And then once I have a huge to read list, like I do on Goodreads all the time, I usually pick a book from there depending on how I'm feeling. So if I'm in the mood for fiction or nonfiction, or I'll be in the mood for romance or adventure or something like that. From there, it doesn't usually take me long to pick. Um, Someone asked what books I've hated. I don't usually hate books. Sometimes I won't get very interested in a book. It's usually because it's over my head, like it's too complicated, or especially for nonfiction kind of thing. I'm not in the mood for it, or if I'm just not interested in the topic or genre in the first place. But for most part, all the books that I read are pretty enjoyable, so I would say that I don't really have a problem with having books that I hate. Someone commented, what is a book? It's kind of a joke. Um, so I came up with a couple quotes that I thought were great explanations of what is a book. So a couple of them. John Green says that books are the ultimate dumpies. Put them down and they'll wait for you forever. Pay attention to them and they'll always love you back. I thought that was great. It's true. You can stop in the middle of a book, put it down, go read another one, and then come back and you can start off right where you left off. Stephen King said the books are a uniquely portable magic. I thought that one was nice. A lot of times we go looking for books that are fantasy so that we can get away or experience things that don't really happen in the real world. And then Charles William Eliot said that books are the quietest and most constant of friends. They're the most accessible and wisest of counselors and the most patient of teachers. And I felt like that was true. I've received a lot of good advice and knowledge that come from books. People who have different experiences, but can give us ideas to help us with ours. Who is your favorite author? I don't really have an absolute favorite author in like the whole world. It doesn't really happen for me like that. But typically I'd say whatever author I've just been reading. For the most part, my fallback, if people really ask, is Thomas Hardy. He wrote books like Tess of the D'Urbervilles, Far from the Madding Crowd, and The Mayor of Casterbridge. They're all a little bit depressing, so people are always like, why is he your favorite? They're just so well written, and I feel like they really convey the essence of the human experience when it comes to like trials and difficulties in our lives. My dad asked, why don't you read nonfiction? I have to say that I do try to read a wide variety of books, fiction, nonfiction, fantasy, etc. Nonfiction is a little more difficult for me to read sometimes. It typically takes me longer to read. There's also not a whole lot of reviews of nonfiction books that I run into with my usual methods. Everyone's always recommending good fiction books. So if I do see a good nonfiction review, then I'll definitely take advantage of that. So for example, one that I read this past week and wanted to give you guys a review of is How to Talk About Places You've Never Been by Pierre Bayard. Pierre is a French writer, and he also wrote a book called How to Talk About Books That You've Never Read. So I'll probably add that one to my to-read list as well because it was really good. I went into this book thinking that it'd be really great just from the review that I read, and I wasn't disappointed. However, it was different than I thought it would be. I was expecting kind of a straightforward list of tips on how to participate in conversation with others about places you've never been, kind of trick them into thinking you've been there. But what I found was an entertaining, very sarcastic kind of storytelling. And he told about how a lot of writers and authors throughout the history of writing have kind of done the same thing, convinced their readers that they've been to a place that they haven't actually. So he talked about people like Marco Polo, Edouard Glissant, or Chateaubriand, and a lot of these people who were really armchair travelers. I liked that term a lot. That's probably what I am, wanting to go visit places from the comfort of my couch. But anyway, I highly recommend this book. It just talks a lot about how we can, go immerse ourselves in another world, the importance of convincing people that there is a way to escape. Reading books is escapism, you know. We want to get to those magical, amazing worlds. One of my favorite quotes from the book is that the most important thing for a writer is to make his readers travel. So that kind of goes back to the quotes about what is a book. Anyway, that's all the questions I'm going to answer for today. If you think of something you'd like to know, or if you think of a book recommendation, or want a book recommendation, or if you have any feedback for me, I'd love to hear about it in the comments, or directly on my blog at thereadingsofanenglishmajor.blogspot.com. So thanks guys, it's been fun. Love to hear from you.